Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike Langford. I'm a producer, engineer, mixer based out of Toronto, Canada. This is Let's Mix Live, where I'm doing some live stream demonstrations using Pro Tools with some ways we can approach a mix or fixing a mix or editing a mix. Again, I'm not here to show you what you should do. I'm here to show you what you could do, because there's 100 different ways to make something sound good. This is episode 1, part 2. It is February 10th, 2022. We spent about 2.5 hours on the first episode going over stuff. We looked at the tracking. We looked at if there's any noise we need to clean up. We looked at the quality of the tracks. We looked at... I'm actually going to go ahead and change. There we go. So we can see what's going on here. So you got Mike Patterson joining us. Welcome. Looking at stuff, or looking at this track a couple days ago. We just looked at the quality of the tracks, what we were working with, the track count, the quality of the vocals, anything we might need to fix or clean up, because I find when I'm mixing, sometimes I'm doing more cleaning up and fixing before I actually get mixing. I might spend 2/3 of my time actually cleaning up the tracks. And there's nothing against the actual tracking. It's just what we need, the ingredients we actually need to start cooking, sort of thing. Where we left off, they did make a couple notes where we left off. There was some things about the vocals. There's a couple notes I thought we might be able to get with some pitch correction. I typically use Melodyne. I typically go through and use some sound augmentation for drums, for kicks and snares. I wasn't feeling it that much that it was needed. Also, this song, Alan Stone Naturally, the one we're using, this song, it's part of a video. It's a great tune, great musicianship. It's part of a video, and we eat with our eyes. So part of that too, keeping in mind that when we're watching it against a video, it needs to look right. Things need to sound like where they should be coming from. Not like a Disney film where things need to be moving around, panning all the time, but just if you were to look at the band on stage or look at the band in the room, things should sort of make sense where they're positioned. So just want to check the chat here quick. We had some issues with the chat on Monday, where I was only seeing it from like one Facebook page. I had it going out to 2 Facebook pages. We use restream.io here. And then I wasn't seeing anything from YouTube or Twitch. Not that I was expecting people to be there, but it's good to know that the chat is working. Back to this though. So yeah, vocals I want to look at. I want to look at the drums a bit closer. There was some cymbals coming through quite loudly. So I was wondering if that was coming through the vocals, or if there's another, because it's done live, so there's another track somewhere where those cymbals are really coming through. Maybe bring those down a little bit. But overall, I thought it was sounding decent. I have not done the thing that I sometimes dread to do, where I listen to the reference track that's there. This is all this information of where to get these tracks is an amazing website called Cambridge Music Institute, I do believe. The link is below if you're watching on YouTube. So if you're a mixer or engineer and you're new, or you're experienced, you're just curious to go through there, or you're looking for stuff to practice on, fantastic resource to get a hold of multi-tracks, not just to practice mixing, but also, just thinking about it too, also to step outside your comfort zone. Sometimes there's other genres where you don't have access to those to see what they're doing, and in a dance track or hip hop track or rock track or country track, because everyone loves country. You might be able to get access to it and hear how some of those sounds come together. You never know, it might spark inspirato. But also from an engineering point of view, the idea that you can see how the tracking actually sounds with a kick drum or a rack tom or electric guitar, or how their raw vocals sound, how it actually ended up in the mix. So I think there's a lot of value there as well. So again, I think it's Cambridge Music Institute, but the link is down below in the YouTube description. Patterson says, I watched the video last night. It made me think, which do you like working on best between rock and metal? I at heart, I love guitars and drums. I think it's fun, but that's also just purely personal preference. But if I was to be asked which music I like working on, a great vocal goes a long way, because that's what sells the song. That's where the emotion comes from. So if you can kind of position everything around that, you've got 51% of the job sort of done. So that's the thing for me. When the vocal's not great, that's where it gets tough, because you're trying to either correct it, fix it, prop it up, give it enough hair and makeup to push it out on the stage, and it can be a little bit tricky that way. So I don't really have a preference that way, but that being said, being a drummer and, having a soft spot for rock, guitars and drums, big fan. So where we left off, I've done one thing since backing this up on Monday. What I've done, and I can see in the top left here, I've added a 1 kilohertz test tone. I'm just gonna go ahead and turn. Again, I have music to help calm my nerves in the beginning, but I've added this. Watch your ears. Also, if you've got this plugged into a system, because I saw Jeremy. I saw these messages after I signed off on Monday on Facebook. If you're plugging this into your speakers or plugging this into, say, your PA system or line array at home, if you have that, Jeremy, be careful, because when I'm EQing, sometimes I will be sweeping through frequencies, and I don't want to do any, I don't want anything to happen to your system at home. So be mindful of your levels, but also you should always be mindful of your levels, unless you've got a limiter or something that's in the way of protecting your system. So the only thing I did was add 2 tracks of 1 kilohertz sine wave at -14. Fun stuff. I needed that because I had a couple questions how I'm running stuff here. I have 2 computers I'm running. I have a M1 Mac Mini, that's kind of my main work computer, and then I have another Mac Mini I'm using for streaming, and then I've got a Behringer 1202 USB mixer, so I can run my Pro Tools rig into the mixer, run my microphone into the mixer, run our intro music into the mixer, and then that all goes USB into my streaming computer. So that helps keep everything in sync. But I put that test tone in so that I could make sure my channels that are coming up are even when it goes through OBS, and then it gets blasted out to everyone onto the internet. So I did add that just as a little bit of technical stuff, so I can right-click on both of those, hide and inactive. If you're curious about where you can find your signal generator in Pro Tools, just go up into Audio Suite, go to Other, go to Signal Generator. Also, if you just go into your inserts, I do believe Signal Generator is in there as well. Yeah, so you just got to go into multi-mono, and you'll see the Signal Generator is there as well. Because there are a few things in there. You've got your sine wave. You've got your square wave, sawtooth, triangle, white noise, pink noise. All that stuff is in there. Again, I gave everyone fair warning at the beginning that I might just be blasting stuff, but there's lots of neat things you can do there. You can use that sine wave. We were talking about it actually last night in class. You can use the sine wave in there to tune, to get a tone. If you want to use that to sidechain against, to tune, to have a note for your kick drum, or if you want to use it for like a pulse or something for your song. So there's lots of things you can do with that signal generator there, but using it for calibration purposes, that helps as well. Do be mindful of that. That being said, it seems like everyone's technical specs for calibration on the internet is all over the place, be it -14 dBFS or -16 or -20. So sometimes just check wherever you're broadcasting to, what they want to see. All I was concerned about is, am I distorting, especially once we get our levels up near the end of the mix. But we'll see how that goes, because again, sometimes you just got to build the wings on the way down, and I went live, and we'll see how it goes. So I wanted to listen through. And I wanted to make a couple more notes. But I already kind of feel like I'm going to want to tune a couple spots on the vocals. I'm just checking to see what that is. Oh, that was a little clicky blip thing on the vocal there we got rid of. So I already know, like, I probably want to dust over the vocals in a couple spots. So I'm going to put, first things first, save as, because we're a new day now. So I'm going to put, this is my naming convention again for anyone that hasn't seen this before. Date, month, year, and then version, because I usually have a whole bunch of different versions when I'm working along here. So so it's 10th February 2022, number 1. So I got that set up. Cindy's here. How's it going, Cindy? So if I know I'm probably going to want to dust over a couple spots, I want to listen through the whole song. I do my best when I'm listening through for the first time, especially the second day, to not touch anything, to not touch any faders as we're listening through, because it's really, really, really easy to start fussing with things, and your notes they're obsolete. They don't make any sense anymore. So I want to listen through, make a couple notes, but first thing I'm going to do, if you're using a Mac or an Apple computer, you can hit Command equals, or if you're old school, Apple equals, and that's how you flip back and forth between your mix window and your edit. So your edit window and your mix window. I prefer the one screen setup, so you're not turning your head back and forth. I'll probably say that often, but part of my workflow as well, because we had some corrective stuff we did there. Part of my workflow is I usually leave the first insert module open for corrective stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and, where is it? I'm going to go ahead and put Melodyne on that. I had I got a second there where sometimes I go to turn Melodyne on and it's like, you need to authorize this. And I'm just like, but I use it all the time. Why do I need to authorize it today? So I'm going to bring up Melodyne. I'm doing this so that I can, actually, I'm going to get rid of this too, just to dump that back to mono, because I have a stereo delay on there. I'm going to dump it back to mono. I'm going to be listening through, so I might as well just transfer this as we're listening through as well. So I'm going to listen through and make some notes. I might pop the headphones off a little bit later as well, so that I can have a listen through my speakers. Because again, I don't mix in my headphones. I usually mix on my speakers at all sorts of levels. I also have a little Bluetooth like USB speaker that I use as well, just to make sure I can hear my vocals and kick and snare and everything's kind of sitting where it should be. So I'm just going to listen through, be right back. And again, while we're doing that, we're transferring this vocal into Melodyne so I have it to work with. Be right back.
Oh, beautiful lady, baby, baby, even from a mirror, but that her looks are not the daisies, and her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't it up, disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Her body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower to flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. And you're just the way that you should be. Yet you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally, yeah. Oh, beautiful maiden, glory our patron, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating. And her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size, yeah. Coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around her neck. Don't it up for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Her body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. Well, flower, flower, growing free. Oh, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Naturally, girl, you're beautiful naturally.
Okay, so that's our first listen through of the morning. I just want to point this out. I always have like pens and markers and stuff around my desk. Going into class yesterday, we're back in class. Some students forget to bring writing utensils in with them, so I grabbed every pen that I had around and threw it in my backpack, which is far away from me right now. But I did have a Sharpie near me, and then I found a pen buried under everything, so it's really hard to write notes to begin with when you're kind of using, I guess, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not like doctor handwriting, but you're just kind of scribbling some notes down. So I did find a pen there, so that was good. Stuff that I had on my list was there's a Vox rolling delay, so you probably put something just to add a little bit of space underneath. It'd be good. I want to look at the toms because the dynamics of the rack tom, floor tom are kind of all over the place. There's not a lot of attack on them. That being said, the way it was performed, it does sound right and it kind of blends in. So I want to see if there's any EQing we can do there. Could probably use a little bit more punch in the snare. I like how the snare sits in the mix overall, but we can probably get a little bit more punch out of it. I remember with the original reference, there was a lot of punch on it, if I remember correctly, but I'll listen to that later. The right background vocal, that can come up a little bit. There's that jazzy note. I want to see if I can go in there because maybe we can edit that out. We'll see how it sounds in the mix. I don't notice it when it's going by, but when we're listening soloed, it was pretty jazz. A little bit more body to the kit, so we'll see if there's some EQ we can do there. I usually scoop a lot of mids out. We can always add it back in. Let's work on our 2-mix chain. Maybe put a slap on the drums a little bit just to give a little bit more vibe. What was else in there? Oh, the guitar solo, that can come up because the guitar's on one track, so it's sitting back in the mix a little bit right now. But once we get to that guitar solo, there's a couple different ways we can address it. We can use some automation, or we can do one of my energy efficient techniques where we can just duplicate the track. Excuse me, you can just duplicate the track and kind of add those together because they're the same and they're really in phase. We can just use one to bump the other one up a little bit instead of using automation and fussing with it. We can just maybe do that. Sometimes it works. If it doesn't work, we'll go to automation. Mr. Mike Diesel's here. How's it going? Thank you for joining us. So that's kind of where I'm at. So again, we transferred the vocal into Melodyne. So what I'm going to go through is just kind of scrub through. I only had a couple spots I want to look at. It was bar 55 around there, bar 90. And then at bar 78, there's that, that's in there. Where is it? That part. We'll see if we can remove that, but also what I was saying earlier, because this song kind of syncs up to a video, the idea that maybe we need to have that because, you know, see a car, hear a car. If we see someone's face moving and it makes a noise and it all makes sense, then we can just roll with that. If it was just a recorded version, it might be distracting if people don't realize it's a live recording. So be mindful of that, the context that we're listening. Those are my thoughts, at least. Again, not telling you what you should do. I'm telling you what you could do. So I'm going to go through and scrub through this. So we got our vocals here. We can listen through in the track. Sometimes I tune stuff as soloed, and sometimes I listen through in the track. This button up here, insertion follows playback. This is one of those things where I know when I was starting, and some other people I was learning from, when you hit play, and you hit stop, and you hit start again, it will go back to where you started from. When this button, insertion follows playback, when that is selected, when I hit stop, Pro Tools, when I hit stop, where I stop is where it will start from again. So that is a hotkey of N. Again, if you have your A to Z selected over here, generally always have that edit keyboard focus. It makes it a lot quicker for your hotkeys. If that's selected, if you hit N, you will engage or disengage insertion follows playback. N is located right above the space bar. So often we're just kind of bashing the space bar, and if you accidentally hit the N key and then turn that on, and if you didn't understand what that is, that's why that's happening in Pro Tools. So this is one of the few times I think insertion follow playback actually makes sense. I'll show you in a second here. So we're going to go scrub through these vocals. What I'm going to do is put some pre-roll on, so I can just select that button there. I'm just going to put 1 bar pre-roll on there. That's 1 beat, 1 second. There we go. So now we look at where our playback timeline is here. But so that's where it's actually going to start from. And I'll show you why I do this in a second. That's too long, and life can be really short. So I'm going to actually put this to 2 beats. Usually just do it at a bar. Usually like 3 seconds or something. So I hit play. It'll run from here. We have insertion follows playback on. We have this all loaded into Melodyne. And again, because, so I'm just going to turn my groups off, so I can hit Shift Command G. That'll turn all my groups off. Remember, we have drums. Katie is here. How's it going? Oh, Diesel says, I've been using this to learn Pro Tools. Good. That's why I'm doing this, to help people figure some stuff out with Pro Tools, because there's a lot of questions around Pro Tools. There's lots of resources on YouTube. There's tons of resources on the internet. But if I can join the cause to help people, I'm here. I'm here for you. Okay, so keep in mind with this vocal, there are lots of drums underneath it. So if we start moving around stuff too much, we're going to start hearing some pitching happening to the drums, and it can be really distracting and add some kind of phase smearing going on. So I'm going to be very particular. If I am moving something, it's for good reason, and we're not just going to go willy-nilly like we would do on a pop track or something that has an isolated vocal.
Oh, beautiful lady, baby.
Also with Melodyne, we can move pitch. We can also move time. But I'm probably not going to mess with time too much because timing is pretty good. It feels natural.
Her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that. She paints up.
So that paint's a little bit sharp. I wonder if you can pull it down a little bit.
She paints up. She paints up. She paints up. No, she paints up that. She paints up. No, she paints up that.
Subtle.
She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
Some funkiness going on there.
Hide. Those blemishes hide.
Again, I use a trackball, so I got a couple extra buttons and doodads to help make this faster.
Hide. Those blemishes hide. Blemishes hide, blemishes hide, blemishes hide, blemishes hide, hide.
So it's a little bit sharp. So we can pull it down a little bit. I think Pro Tools is going to Pro Tools in a second here. Nope, still good.
Show those blemishes hide. Coffee in cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't it up, don't it up, this bit. Even from a mirror, but that Hadouks are not the daisy.
I sometimes legit forget some of the buttons and commands because I just do stuff so quickly sometimes. I forgot to zoom out for a second. We'll share. So by scrubbing through this way, now I've probably just done a bunch of stuff that didn't make any sense, but using that pre-roll and using insertion follows playback, you can just scrub through the song and not need to keep moving where your timeline is or anything. So.
Even from a mirror, but that Hadouks are not the daisies. Dukes are not the daisies.
Subtle. So that's sharp on not Pro Tools. Yeah, you can just feel it sometimes.
That Hadouks are not the daisies. Are not the daisies. Not the daisies. Are not the daisies.
I'm gonna put that to 3 beats. Splitting the difference between 2 beats and a bar.
Her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that face, no. She paints up advice, no. She paints up that face, no. She paints up that face to make sure. Up that face to make sure. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Make sure those blemishes hide. Show those blemishes hide. Those blemishes hide. Those blemishes hide.
So wise men once said, better's better, usually.
Coffee in cigarettes.
I will say too, once you start tuning or timing things, it is a can of worms. And or I guess what the toothpaste is out of the tube, so to speak. So sometimes when you start tuning or timing something, a lot of little things like I'll just get that. So with more live sounding stuff, I do let a lot of other things get through. It's just, you know, I'm looking for notes where I'm like, that's sharp or flat to me, and we'll see if we can nudge it.
Coffee in cigarettes, calorie news around, calorie news around the neck. Don't it up, don't it up the neck. Don't it up, disrespect. Don't it up, disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips, stressing on pics, stressing on the waist and hips, stressing on the waist and hips. Her body right, the world. Her body right, the world is sick. World is sick. World is.
Oh, while we're here, stuff like that where the vibrato is really going across a few notes, like it's going across 3 semitones there. If you were to just highlight everything and just kind of nail it to the grid, stuff like that sometimes gets a little bit funky, depending on where this kind of sound blob is. It's a technical term, sound blob. Depending on where that is. So like you got to use your ears on it. And again, practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't have perfect pitch. But I've just kind of put that where I think it sounds good and it's not jumping out at me. Mike D's saying, if you are doing live off the floor stuff, how do you deal with pitch correction if you have bleed in other tracks, if it takes too long to answer nowhere? No, I mentioned it earlier. You got to be mindful of that bleed because there's quite a bit of drums in the vocal. So you can't go bonkers just tuning everything. I've worked on a couple records where it's live and you need to go through and you're constantly listening for any phase shifting, any comb filtering, any kind of smeary stuff that's going on, and just make really tight edits around it. And sometimes you just have to let stuff go. and know that it's live. Also, again, I mentioned earlier, we eat with our eyes. So if you're watching something, especially, there's a lot of leeway when it comes to a live show and how, you know, I don't want to say pitchy in a bad way because we're human and that's how humans sound when we're singing. So like when you're watching something, that energy and emotion stuff that's there, there's a lot more leeway and forgiveness from the listener when we're seeing that. When it's just recorded and there's no visual to go with it, that's when we start kind of drilling down. But as far as dealing with some of the bleed, it's just be mindful if it sounds wrong in the track, and if you hear the tuning starting to pull some of the other instrumentation that's around, it's going to be wonky. What I would say too, we're lucky in this sense because we just have drums. As much as drums can be an issue getting into everything, it's better than, in my opinion, it's better than having guitars or something that actually has tone. Because if you pitch something up or down in the vocal and it's got a guitar, now the guitar is being pitched up or down, and now that might actually rub against the guitar in the track. With the drums, I don't want to say the drums don't have a note, because I might get some heat for saying that, but for the most part, you don't hear the note as clearly as you would with a piano or a guitar or something that's loud that has like a note that's being played. Hopefully that helps. In short, just work with it. If it sounds bad, undo it.
World is sick from flower to flower.
Things like this too. If you go to note separation, you might be able to just make a couple more slices here. If there's anything you want to get in there. I wasn't really hearing anything in there. I was just showing some of these tools. Like that one, because it kind of, the vibrato kind of jumps up a little bit there. Some funkiness going on there. I'm gonna just listen again. This is a funny one. We'll see what we can do on this one. I can live with it. Because sometimes, again, can of worms, sometimes you start messing with it, it just sounds worse and worse. It's like, try to think of analogies. I like analogies, but it's like you got something on your hands and you try to like get paper towel, and now the paper towel is stuck to your hands. So you try to like, wash your hands, and then you got the paper towel and the glue stuck to like the faucet, and like everything just keeps getting worse and worse. I'm on the fence about it. One thing we can do is just go up to edit, restore original pitch, undo all pitch changes. That is when you throw the towel in on that attempt. You know what? It's like it's beginning of the third period and you're down 5-1. You're like, it's probably not going to happen today. So let's not get hurt. Let's just work on a couple of things. I can buy that. Yet you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally, yeah. Okay, so we got up to the end of the first chorus, and that's how long it took us, maybe 15 minutes? Oh, beautiful maiden, glory, our patron,
wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating. That body that she keeps hating. That body that she keeps hating. And her ass and thighs.
Sure.
Her ass and thighs. No, they don't need eyes. No, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong side. That her rack's the wrong side. Yeah, the wrong side.
So that vibrato starts okay.
Her rack's the wrong side. Yeah, coffee, cigarettes, cannabis news around her neck. Doll it up for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping bells and posting pics, stressing on the way.
Sure.
Stressing on pics, stressing on pics, stressing on the wasting hips. Her body's right, the world is sick. World right, the world is sick. World is sick. World is sick. Well, flower. World is sick. Well, flower. World is sick. Well, flower. 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 Sick. Well, flower. Flower. Growing free.
Pro Tools.
Your pedals, they look. Oh, your pedals. Oh, your pedals, they look good. Pedals.
Just the beginning of pedals there.
Oh, your pedals.
A little sharp for me.
Oh, your pedals, they look good to me. Good to me. Good to me. Good to me.
That's a tricky one.
Good to me. Yeah, good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally. Beautiful naturally. Beautiful naturally. Beautiful naturally. Beautiful naturally.
So, Diesel, you're asking, again, with all that bleed in the background, all of this is loaded into Melodyne, but we're not moving any of this. All this audio stays the same. Anything we're moving, like over here and stuff, that has pitch correction. Anything else here? I just want to try to find something here. Oh, because the guitar amp's probably is isolated, all you hear is the acoustic sound of the electric guitar. So it's not going to phase that much. I was trying to find an example where you could mess around with it in Melodyne and see if it like starts to phase and do weird stuff. So that scoops up a little bit sharp. I'm going to see if I can... So subtle. Naturally, naturally.
naturally, girl, naturally, girl, naturally, girl, you're beautiful naturally.
So overall, like, again, this is a really strong vocal in my opinion. Could you get away with not using any pitch correction? Absolutely. I've been taught, and I do believe it is true, when it comes to tuning, timing, and stuff, we can raise it a letter grade. If someone gives you a C, you can turn it to a B. If you get a B, you can probably put it to an A. If you get an A, you probably don't need to do that much work to it. But if someone gives you an F or a D, you're hoping for at least a passing grade at that point. It is what it is sometimes, what you get to work with. But the vocal, the quality, the emotion, delivery, the timing, I think there's a lot of great things about this performance. And as you can see, we're just dusting over a few words, but once the can is open and the worms start doing the wormy thing, it can be, you can lose a lot of time working on it. I think you probably spent about half an hour on it, maybe 25 minutes, half hour. But again, my method of using, I'm sure lots of people do this too, but just using the insertion follows playback so we can scrub through. Also having a pre-roll on there, we can just scrub through the track. And I usually gauge a half an hour for a track, especially if it's isolated going through. And then also there's comping that can happen where you're taking different pieces from different takes and putting those together. So usually give myself an hour for comping vocals as well. So sometimes, reason why we're here too, it's partially a Dear Bands rant that I'm trying to suppress right now. When vocalists are wondering, oh, the vocals are done, you're just going to comp it and prep it. And sometimes I don't want to hear that you're prepping it. I call prep, it's tuning and timing. So sometimes they don't want to hear that, but it can easily take on that lead vocal, maybe take 2, 3, 4 hours of kind of fussing with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's production stuff. It's the hair and makeup of the recording industry. So we need to do that sometimes. So it may take, it may take 25% of the time to actually record the vocal, but then you might have some prep you're running on it after. So again, great performance on this one. So next thing I would do, I would normally listen through again to see if there's anything else that I want to fuss around with, but I feel pretty good about this. Also, just to save a few minutes of time so I can rant about other things. As far as committing this, because right now all of this is loaded into Melodyne. If something happens to Melodyne, I lose all of the work we've done. So how I do this is I make these tracks inactive so I can hold Control and Command, make those inactive, they're grayed out. So now those plugins are gone. What I do from there, take this track, right click it, or if you don't have the button, you can hit Control, click it, go to commit, selected tracks, which is my vocal, consolidate clips, insert after last track, source track, do nothing. You can go to replace, but I don't like doing that. And then offline, what this does is it bounces this track down. So it bounces down this track with Melodyne. So the work that we've done, we can commit it and we can turn Melodyne off. I love offline bounce. I'm so glad that Avid figured out how to do offline bounce, so we didn't have to bounce things in real time or use another DAW. So next thing I do, again, my naming convention, I've got my track, what it is, and then .c, that means that's the comp. I'm going to go to duplicate. You can go to duplicate or go to new, Pro Tools. What I do is I call this one .ct, so .comp, and then the T/ is for tuning, or the T stands for tuning or timing. So I can always see where we're at. I'm going to double click that. Going to hit Command X to cut it. I'm going to go up a track, which is P on the keyboard here. I'm going to hit Command V to paste it. I need to get that plugin so when I hit key commands, it just shows up in the corner. So what I've done is just copied that track and pasted it onto our main playlist here. I can delete this now. And so you can see underneath it, if I want to go back to the untuned vocal, it's there. So if there's anything I wanted to get rid of, or if there's anything that sounds funky, or if the client's like, I liked the original vocal better, you just open this up, boom, export it, and call it a day. See if you can get paid. So I'm going to make this Melodyne inactive. I'm going to make those active again, just holding Control and Command and selecting them. I'm also going to go back here and put our widening plugin delay thing that again, there's a few things that you just use all the time. I don't know. I don't know if it makes it better. I don't think it makes it worse. That was the only difference in the first listen through. I just thought of that now because I did take that off at the first listen so I could run Melodyne through while we were listening. Also, if you've got several vocal tracks, you can put several instances of Melodyne on those tracks if you're running it this way. And if your computer can handle it, you can dump all those tracks into a Melodyne at the same time. Especially if you got a track that's 5 minutes long or something, you don't want to have to dump. See if we can do the math here. You don't want to have to dump 12 tracks in 5 minutes at a time. That's a full hour of just bringing those tracks into Melodyne. You could do it in all one 5-minute swoop. So you look on YouTube and just watch a video while it's transferring. Okay, so we've got that vocal in there. I think that's sounding pretty good. Should be good. So I can knock that off, those 2 spots there. I know there's that spot at bar 78 that's kind of in there. I'm just going to leave that for now because I think that it's fine. I want to look at our master chain, our main chain that we're kind of working with. Right now we just have kind of our, almost like our like speed limit here. It's going to drop this in on second pre-chorus. We're just kind of using this just to get a reference so we know that we're not down touch, so that we know that we're not hitting our mix bus too hard. We've got enough headroom here. Again, that's kind of acting as our VU meter. That's acting as our peak reading there. So a couple of things I like to add usually just some saturation. Again, I'm not bringing in some of my templated stuff so we can kind of see what we have to work with. Let's see what we have available here. I got this not too long ago. This J73. Again, what you have it. Most of the time I'm going to use stock Pro Tools stuff, but I'm just curious to mess around with some of these other plugins that we have because again we're here for fun and educational. So I'm just curious to hear what happens when we mess with some of this. If it makes it better, it makes it worse. Like that. Subtle. Love that. Pro Tools. There's some coolness on that too. Not for 2-mix, but okay, there's a lot of like zaniness in here, so you know, sometimes you try stuff on the fly and it gets a bit weird. I don't mind the default that's there, to be honest. It's Michael Brower, Ross Hogarth, Nick Brophy. There's some stuff down here too. I don't mind the default one. I think it sounded pretty good. I think it sounds pretty good. It's in headphones though. I don't know what it sounds like on your end, but yeah, you're beautiful naturally. A little subtle. All right, one thing I need to do as well, which I need to take my head or turn the microphone on, turn the microphone off, take my headphones off for a second. Be right back. Naturally, girl, you're beautiful. Coffee and cigarettes, calories around the neck. Don't look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. Well,
gathering news around the neck. Don't look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From power, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Coffee, cigarettes, calorie surrounding. Growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Coffee, cigarettes, calorie surround the neck. Don't look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From power, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Coffee, cigarettes, calorie surround the neck. Don't if I said flower, flower, just growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally. Oh, if I said wonderful naturally, girl. Oh, beautiful lady, baby,
All right, back from a bit of the chaos.
even from
I hadn't listened on speakers. I was just listening in headphones. There's a few things that were jumping out at me. It's interesting to hear the difference, that's for sure. Some things that I did, we messed around with that saturation there on the J37. It sounds a little bit different on the speakers, that's for sure, versus how it sounds in my headphones. The vocals are crazy loud in my speakers versus my headphones, so I messed around with that for a little bit. Just a couple EQ things. I added a pull tech on the drums. I usually have my drum master, I usually have like a side compression or like a back bus type thing happening. But I don't know if I need it with this one, because it sounds okay. And then I usually have one for the room, but the drum, like I usually make my own room sound for the drums. But we've got that room chamber that's already there, and I think it sounds fantastic, so I just run with that. But I just want to get a little more overall brightness, so that pull tech is a quick and easy solution for that. There's lots of other EQs you can use too, but I kind of like that 10 kilohertz and then at for boost, and then the attenuation at 20. You can do a lot of great stuff with this little EQ here. Also, I put it on vocals just to bring a little bit more of the presence out of it. Mike Diesel said, I guess if it's just a small correction, it wouldn't be very noticeable unless you went T-Pain. Yeah, you can really slam vocals with pitch correction. Sometimes artistically, sometimes, sometimes you can just demolition, everything with it. Diesel's saying, how do you pick what frequencies you want to cut? I just listen for it, just really narrow band EQ and sweep around. But I can usually kind of hear it in the track, and I know where I should be looking. If you're watching, there's something kind of nasally in the vocal in that last section there, and I was wondering if it was just across the whole vocal or if it was just in that spot. Because when someone's singing, if they're moving around, it's going to change how the EQ is on the actual sound of the vocal. So sometimes you can't. What's the word I'm looking for? You got to find your balance, because when we're recording vocals in a kind of if we're recording vocals in kind of a safe or controlled environment, usually you've got your vocal mic, your pop screen, use your pop screen for your plosives, and the vocalist is sitting there and it's very consistent. But when you're moving around quite a bit, you guys got to work with it. So I started thinking, am I just fussing with this because I can actually do something about it, or is it really not bugging me that much? So I just left it. But also, you may have noticed on the vocal, I had my vocal EQ I was working with. And again, I don't care what it looks like, just if it sounds better to me. And I just went to factory default. I just reset it. In my opinion, don't be afraid to do that. That's why we have different versions of things that we've saved. If you want to go back to it, you can easily, just go back to a previous save if you want to grab that and bring that back out. But for the most part, if something doesn't sound good to me, I can just, virtually crumple it up and throw it into a ball. So, and just start again. That's the beautiful thing about non-destructive editing and non-destructive mixing and stuff like that. Like, you got time to just make quick moves. I don't have a ton of stuff on my main chain, my main 2-bus here. Again, we just threw that tape simulator on there. I might mess around with a couple other options too in a minute. Also threw center on there. This isn't my normal chain. There's some things in the upgrade that I didn't save. Usually I bring things in from templates. I'm trying to not do that, but I've got a couple settings that I've made here. But for the most part, I just kind of pulled that low part over to more to the center side. And this just helps kind of widen things a little bit. And I find this can really help your vocals sit when you mess with this. I have not played with this center plugin in headphones, so I really wanted to hear what it was doing in speakers, and then I was shocked at what my speakers were telling me. I have NS10Ms. Those are my main speakers I use, so I made some moves, so now I'm curious to hear what it sounds like in the headphones. Mike Patterson's asking, later on, are you going to mix some hard rock and metal? We want to rock out here. Well, there's lots of different genres that I'd like to work on. So eventually I'll probably get to some more rock stuff. But there's because I've gone through a lot of the songs on the site that has all the multi-tracks, and This song in particular, Alice Stone Naturally, was one of the favorites from class last term. So I did want to get to that one. Long story short, I did want to get to this one because I know some people had some questions about some of the instrumentation and tracking and just things that we could do. Got some great mixes back from it, from class, but I was curious to take a swing at it too because, again, it's fun. I like mixing. It's fun to mess around with stuff. So I'm going to, where are we at here? I'm just going to listen through because, again, I made some moves outside of the headphones. And, again, I can't have the speakers going in the microphone because it's going to get all phasey and weird. So let's have a little bit of a listen through, see where we're at. And actually, before we even do that, I know we need to look at the guitar solo. See what's going on there. I cranked up the room on it too. I liked it. It just sounds great. Is that from the vocal? Oh yeah, there's a lot going on in there. Now that backing vocal on the right side's coming out. Okay, back to what we're trying to do here. Another reason I don't like attended mix sessions, and I never did, because I'm all over the place. And like having someone over your shoulder watching you do stuff, like I'm sure they enjoy the process. Probably not so much seeing this here now, but watching the process, probably like, what? Like with that Hank Hill voice, what is going on? Let's grab that guitar. Let's grab that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. So duplicate. I don't want to grab any of the stuff here. All I want, sorry, made a mistake here. I want to grab the inserts and the sends. I don't want, so I can copy that stuff over, but I don't actually want the track itself. So we're just going to call this still comp. We'll call this solo. What do I want to do? Just so I know where I got this from. So again, always assume you're not going to finish it. So if someone opens things up, it makes sense. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that. Because it's perfectly in phase, theoretically, it's going to add together and it'll just make it a little bit louder. So that's a quick and easy way. Instead of using automation, I can just kind of do this sometimes. If it doesn't work, to do something else. If it works, great. Let's turn off pre-roll too. Pro Tools. So that's kind of where the beginning is. So I might be able to just fade that in just to kind of get that part going. And I mash around on the keyboard a lot. It'd be funny if I did have the plugin or widget thing to show all the keys that are going. It'd probably look like just a bunch of notes, a bunch of keystrokes happening there. Okay, so we've got this there. I'm gonna actually pan this to the middle. So this is what. So it's a little bit louder. I want to go in there. We can probably EQ this a little bit more too. Take some of the mids out. Again, I apologize to guitar players at home. They're like, why are you scooping all the mids? Ruining the tone. Because I'm a drummer. Do that. Grab the room reverb we have. Just curious. A little too much going on there with that. So we got that guitar solo up a little bit now. I want to change, just while we're here, I do want to change the delay setting we have. I tried to make it so it's kind of cool for the guitar, but I don't think it's cool anymore. I think it's played out now. So I do want to listen to that. So I'm just going to turn this up just so we can hear it. I kind of want more of a longer rolling delay now. We tried to get fancy. I gotta stop myself from getting fancy sometimes. See how that sits in the mix. I always tell people, and I've been told and learned, your effects shouldn't be distracting unless intentional, but usually it should sound musical. So I'm trying to find something here that kind of sits in the track a bit better. I really like that snare drum, but it's hard because I want to put a little bit more like top on it. But it grabs the cymbals. One second. There we go. That's the drummer making noises, his face. That's some of the stuff that comes through with tracking when people get into it, they're in the zone, they start making mumbly noises, but like try to not do that. know I'm crushing this right now. Pro Tools. I don't know, there's some stuff going on there, but it's okay. Patterson's gotta head out. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good rest of your day. I wanted to look at the toms. What's our time at? Just after an hour. Pro Tools. I wanted to look at the toms. They're not bugging me that much anymore. Like that's pretty boofy what's going on there. And again, they're all kind of different. Sometimes I just play samples in, call it a day. But I'm just curious to see what's actually happening here. Whoops. Okay, the floor tom sounds a bit better. Again, I don't worry about what it looks like, just what it sounds like. Just gonna get a little more volume. Using the EQ. I also realize I'm crushing that, but it's not bugging me. Again, sometimes, you know, do what I suggest, not do what I've done. Because you shouldn't be clipping anywhere, but it's not bugging me. So I'm just going to let that slide for now. We could fix it. I don't think it's going to keep anyone from getting a house if that snare track is clipping because of the EQ and the where it is right now. Use your ears on some of that stuff. I think it's sounding okay. I was liking the toms. I think the toms are they're cutting through a bit more. Okay, that's what's going on here, because I think... Okay. There's something funky going on here. I may have thought I was moving the EQ on the snare top, and I wasn't, again, so I don't want clients around, because no one knows what they're doing. I can buy that. That's good. Okay, that's good. So, I wanted to mess around with the drums for another second here. Now I wanted to see if I can grab that slap back. Doesn't sound great there. I'm gonna try to put that on the rooms. There we go. Not doing much. Still want to figure out this snare drum. Just the drummer noises, it's funny. Oh, these are joined together. Oh, it's one of those things. And I gotta remember to turn that off. So just want that. I always forget how to turn this off when they're both following each other, and it's annoying. Yeah, there we go. I just want a little bit of the kind of boxiness using the snare bottom microphone. Naturally, beautiful, naturally, yeah. Oh, beautiful maiden, Lord, without patron, wasting all the money on that body. It would just bother me that that was on that module for sounds. Her ass and thighs, no. Okay, overall, not a lot of stuff's bugging me. That said, I feel like I don't know what it sounds like when I'm in my headphones, so I'm gonna start from the beginning again. I'm gonna probably make a couple nudges, but just like listen to my speakers and see if anything else I want to mess with. Be right back. Even from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies, and her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes, gallery news around the neck. Don't it up, disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the wasting hips. The body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower to flower, growing free. Oh, no, petals, they look good to me. And you're just the way that you should be. Yet you're beautiful naturally.
Glory without hatred, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating. And her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size. Yeah, coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Nobody's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. When power, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally.
All right, not gonna put my headphones back on yet. Overall, I think it's sounding okay over here. Again, we all hear differently. We all have different ideas of what we're looking for the purposes of this. I think it's sounding decent. I've got my limiter on here. And if you noticed, I put this down to minus 0.2 dBFS. That just gives us this little touch of headroom before we hit digital zero. I do recommend putting a limiter on when you get closer to the end of your mix, because it's going to change once you start to bring the limiter down. Also for mastering purposes, if you have this and you send it to mastering and they bring the limiter down, some of your elements might start to change a little bit. So if you're sending it to clients, do this too, gets the levels up. So I feel like I'm kind of at that spot. There's some hiss in there. I'm curious to know where that's coming from. I've got a couple of tricks for that too to get rid of it. So yeah, I'm at a point where I probably put the limiter on just to kind of flatten the mix dynamics out a little bit and then rebalance from there. So watch your ears for a second. Be right back. Oh, also, when I'm doing this, I usually go to the loudest part of the song and kind of put a limiter there. So, and there's lots of different ones. I'm just using the Waves L1. Maxim, like the stock Pro Tools one's pretty good too, but I just use the L1 from Waves all the time. Again, to each their own, whatever you prefer.
Naturally. naturally beautiful. Flowers is growing free. Oh, the petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful. Oh, beautiful lady, baby, even from a mirror, but that her looks are not the daisies and her shape and size. I know she paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide.
I'm gonna mess around with because the bass is actually keys, so Wurlitzer. So I'm curious to mess around. I'm gonna try something. So just hang on. Can talk through some of this actually. I just have my headphones off because I'm using my speakers so I can hear what's kind of happening down there. But actually, we can do this because this could be a headphones thing. So that Wurlitzer, where were we? I thought I duplicated it. I really did. Okay, I want to duplicate this with the playlist inserts and sends and everything. There we go. So what I want to do is call this. So I'll just call this octave up. So now we got a duplication of what's going on here. Sometimes this works, sometimes it does not. I'm just going to go ahead and just super quickly just put this up. This is not the one that I wanted. So I'm just going to put this up an octave. 12 semitones. I do believe that should be up an octave. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay, that's sounding like trash, so we'll just get rid of that one. Sometimes there's some trial and error. Again, things when you got clients behind you and they're just like, oh my God, we're paying this guy like $75 to mix this. Doesn't know what he's doing. None of us know what we're doing. We just kind of fart around until it sounds good. Okay, what do I want to try here? I just want to get a little bit more tone out of it. Because sometimes I can just dump it up pitch-wise and it's fine. Let's see if that one wants to work. Okay, that's not doing it either. Other trick we can do, because sometimes you can just dump it up and pitch them, but I'm going to actually just filter some of this out and see what we can get from maybe some using saturation or distortion or something. So let's get rid of that. Because it's like really low. Are those joined? No, they're not. It's giving us a little bit more top end there. Again, what the EQ looks like, sometimes it looks pretty gross, but just kind of ignore that. All right, I'm gonna hop out of the headphones for a second. Gemma's here. How's it going, Gemma? Gonna hop out of the headphones. Gonna listen on the speakers again for a little bit. Be right back. So I deleted that second keys DI that I accidentally duplicated, and also just deleted the other whirly thing I duplicated as well. It wasn't adding enough in the speakers. We can just live with it. If they need more bass, up 3 dB, do that. But there's a spot where the keys kind of a little solo there, so I wanted to just do the trick we did with the guitar down here, see if we can just add that track and make it a little bit louder in just that section. So I'm going to duplicate it without this whole playlist, copy down what we need, and go from there.
Oh, beautiful naturally, yeah. Naturally, yeah. Naturally, yeah. Oh, beautiful maiden, Lord, without patron, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating, and her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size. Yeah, coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. Well, power, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Hearing from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies, and her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't let up disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower to flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. And you're just the way that good to me. And you're just the way good to me. And you're 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 and
There's a little tick or pop or click or something in there, so I'm just gonna see what that is. Jemison, going good, Hayden. I'm doing good. It's always an emotional roller coaster when you're mixing something, because sometimes you're like, yeah, it sounds good, and then you're like, this is bad. I should quit. should have quit a long time ago. But then other times you're like, no, this sounds good. I think I can do this. But I'm hearing there's a little tick or pop or something in here. There's a scrubber tool, this little speaker with the loudness sounds coming out of it. It's gonna, 1 second. It's right there. So there's a couple different ways. I'm just gonna leave my speakers on for a second here, so I can hear that. I don't know, maybe I geek out over this sometimes. I'm just like, I wonder if I can see it. I could point at. So I think it's like here or there. But that's human faces. They make noises like that sometimes. So it's something in there. I am going to go ahead and use one of my restorative tools here. This can be headphones, so I can hear what everyone else is hearing. Make sure my left is my left and my right is right. It's super subtle. You might be able to hear it on your end. So it is kind of grabbing it with this. So there, now it's gone. So I'll just sew that up. And just bashing buttons, because that's how we get through life often. So that's gone now for me. I heard it when it's going by. I'm just kind of listening for some technical stuff, anything jumping out. But that was one of those things that drives me insane. The little ticks and pops. I wish there was like one button to get rid of all of it, but it doesn't work because life's not easy like that. Be right back. Oh, Jim's saying it happens. That was my headache in radio class. Time to use Pro Tools. Which specifically about Pro Tools? Because there's lots of things. Oh, one other thing too. I'm listening on my NS10, so those are my main speakers. But I also have a little Bluetooth USB speaker as well. It is plugged in, but it's a little USB Altic Lansing speaker. But I do use that for checking my vocal levels and stuff like that. So I am going back and forth between my NS10s and my little USB speaker. I used to use my laptop speakers on my MacBook Pro, but they exploded. So everything sounds like farts through them. Be careful. They will explode.
Oh, beautiful maiden, Lord, without thinking, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating, and her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice, but the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size. Yeah, coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't look for disrespect. naturally, beautiful naturally. Oh, beautiful lady, baby, baby, even from a mirror. Oh, beautiful lady, baby, baby, even from a mirror. But that her dukes are not the daisies, and her shape and size don't need advice, no. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes, gallery news around the neck. Don't let up disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. The body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower to flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. And you're just the way that you should be. Yet you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally, yeah. Oh, beautiful maiden, glory felt patron, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating. And her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size. Yeah, coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't it up for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the waist and hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower, flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yet you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Oh, babe, I said flower, flower, just growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Girl, you're beautiful naturally.
Okay. There's a lot of things that I like about that. If I was doing this, which I am, I'd probably leave it around here today. Get fresh ears on it later, see if there's anything else. Make some new notes. Make sure I also have a pen, not a Sharpie, in front of me so I can actually read what's happening. But we got through the vocal delay, switched that. Tom's looked at those. More punch in the snare. It sounded a lot punchier now. Also, when you add your limiter to your 2-mix, when you add your limiter to 2-mixes, you're usually going to get a little more kick and snare coming through, and you can adjust the levels that way. Again, I've been listening on the Bear Dynamic 990 Pros. Again, I've been kind of converted. You can do a lot of work in open back headphones. I usually didn't work on them at all. So we addressed that. We addressed the backing vocals, the guitar solo, add a little more body to the kit. Looked at our 2-mix. Again, I'm not bringing any of my usual templated stuff in with me. I've been trying to create some things while I'm here. A little bit of slap of the drums, didn't like it. Jazz chord, I couldn't find it. I didn't hear it. I might look for it and see if I can put a Band-Aid on it, but I think it's fine in the track. Put the guitar solo together again. We just duplicated the track so we could just use the addition of the perfectly in phase guitar. Well, I guess technically perfect because they're both EQ'd the same. It's the same track. Instead of automating, we can do that. If that doesn't work, then I get into automation. There's definitely a few spots where I would automate things. If you want to be a little more fussy, nitpicky about it, especially with the vocals. But overall, again, it's live and this syncs up to video, so there's a little bit of leeway there with how it sounds and how it looks with how it sounds. If you're wondering what was going on here with this sidechain, I was trying to remember because I usually drag this over in part of my templates. But it's kind of like you can sidechain it as a de-esser, but I usually find something between like 1 and 4K that's kind of screaming to me how I hear it. So I use the sidechain to kind of tame some of those frequencies when they get up there a little bit. There's other plugins we can use as well. I know I'm probably going to get it in comments eventually if people start finding these videos. Why don't you just use Soothe, or why don't you just use what is it? Name's on tip of my tongue. But there's a couple other dynamic-based EQs that we can use, but I've just kind of grabbed this one. But instead of using it as a de-esser, I use it as a way to tame some frequencies when they get a little bit loud. So it's the same thing, just different frequencies. Also, I don't have a de-esser on this. The S's weren't jumping out at me, so I didn't feel like we needed to do that. There was just the one on the left side vocal, female vocal, that was a little bit sibilant, so I just EQ'd it and didn't worry about using the using a de-esser on that. Again, there's 101 different ways that we can approach things to try to make them sound better to us. The one thing that I did want to check, I don't know how much you can hear on your end, but I hear hiss, and even if you as long as you're not using a phone or a tablet or something, you can see there's a little bit of noise floor that's happening off to the side here. I don't like noise. I don't know if that's coming from... Okay, so it is coming from the tape machine, which is okay. We put that on there for us. Just having a quick look to see if we can turn some of that off. But one thing we could do, our tape machine's there. This is a little bit of a thing sometimes. Our tape machine is here. If I turn that off, our noise floor seems to disappear. So one of the things we could do if we want to get rid of that noise floor, which is probably insane. Someone at home right now that worked on tapes, like, why would you do that? Why would you put a tape machine on and then get rid of the noise? Because there's saturation that comes from. There's a little bit of magic that was happening that I thought sounded pretty good. So one of the things we can do, we can go to spectral denoise. Isotope RX, I just have 8. I think they've probably they're probably at like 15 by now, knowing the way that I upgrade my plugins and system and stuff. So we can go to spectral denoise here, and we can learn this noise. And now we have a little bit of control over how much noise is there. It'll be very subtle what it actually does to the overall mix, but I would probably just do a little bit of that on that. And that'll be okay. One thing too, sometimes people wonder, you can start stacking quite a bit of stuff on your inserts modules for your main output. If you run out It might take a second, but just create an aux, run your whole mix into that aux, and then run that aux into your main mix, because that'll give you another 10 modules of inserts to work with. I don't think we would need 20 inserts on our mix chain. I think that's a lot. But with some corrective, some saturation, some widening, limiter, like you can easily put 4 or 6 things on there. But just in case you're wondering, same thing with any of these other tracks as well. If you run out, just bus it to an aux and then start adding more stuff to it. Sometimes I'll have 2, 3 EQs on something, just kind of poking around at something. It's not uncommon too to have 2 compressors on something as well. One doing heavy lifting, one doing little delicate work as well. So overall, I thought it was pretty good. The other thing I did too, I muted the delay on the keys in the beginning. I thought it was distracting, so I just brought that down a little bit. Well, I didn't bring it down a little bit. I actually muted it. That is as much as you can bring that down. And I had it come back in at the pre-chorus here. So again, we dropped in all our markers earlier, so it's easy for us to. And again, because my timing's bad. So there's a drummer. I didn't say I was a good drummer. So we can actually just move that over so it comes in on the downbeat there of that pre-chorus. I was considering maybe getting rid of it after the first chorus, the section here. Let's just have a listen to that. Just where this little section is with the keys. Yeah. I kind of don't need the delay there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Turn that up to that touch. Oh, beautiful maiden. Same thing there, actually. And this is all, this would be in my notes tomorrow morning if I was getting back to this. Just feeling the dirt in the trackball right now, just creaking along, trying to make this. So I'm just going to go to the mute. So again, I don't name my buses. I just know that 9 slap delay, 10 is a longer delay, 11 is my reverb. I'm going to go to the mute for that. So I'm just going to mute just that section. Just so the vocal doesn't have the delay on it. I don't think it needs it. Oh, beautiful maiden, Lord, without patron, wasting all the money on that. Maybe that whole section doesn't even need the delay on it. So let's do that. Let's just go all the way up to. Yeah, we'll go right up to where it says coffee. And we'll bring it, we'll stop it, actually, we'll mute it about there. Oh, beautiful maiden, Lord, without patron. So we just saw the reverb on there, but we'll just get rid of the delay that's happening. That she keeps hating, her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size. Yeah, coffee and cigarettes, calorie. Then it comes back in there. That sounds pretty good to me. There's not a ton else I would do today. I think one of the questions I got yesterday actually was just like, how long are your mix sessions? I usually 2, 3, 4 hours, but then I'll take a break. Depends how much I need to get done, but I don't encourage people. I know it doesn't work for me. Like I can't sit and mix something for like 8 hours straight, and like the equivalent of your ears having bags under your eyes trying to like make something, get it all done in one day. But that's just me though. Like I do like to take breaks at least every 2 or 3 hours and, go for a quick walk, just get away from stuff, go do something else, then come back and get fresh perspective. Also, again, I don't mix in headphones that often. So I'm usually got like, Walking Dead or something on over here and Facebook and just writing a response in a thread and then deleting it because it's not necessary. You don't need to jump into that. So I'm moving around quite a bit. I think that does help too. So you're not getting kind of fixed in one position when you're mixing. Critical listening, that's one thing to want to have your head in a vice and really pay attention. But I think it is wise to move around quite a bit when you are mixing, because there's lots of reflections and stuff, and things will jump out. Things will sound better, things will sound worse, but just trying to find that balance of what's going on. So I think overall this sounds pretty good. I am dreading this one thing. I'm going to do this for real time. I'm going to go listen to their reference for a second. What I want to do, just give me a second here because I think it's going to work. Whoops. Also, I want to try to make sure that these are kind of matched a little bit. I can never remember what my output is to go, because I have on my selector here, I can swap back and forth. This is where it might be handy to actually name this, but I don't. Give me 1 second here. Outputs, so it should be. Okay, so it should be, because I have my Focusrite Scarlett, and I also have two Rosetta. I have a Rosetta 200 and Rosetta 800 that's hanging off this as well. So it should be on tracks 9 and 10. That's what I thought I picked. I have the video for proof, but I also have a bad memory sometimes. A selective memory. Okay, that should be at 9 and 10. I don't think it's 1920. Nope. Hopefully this doesn't throw everything into chaos. All right, we'll just do this the old-fashioned way where you just keep scrolling through these. Maybe it's a sign to not listen to the reference mix. There's always that too. So I'd say going back and forth between school and here and laptop and stuff. Sometimes the I/O gets a bit funky, but should be coming up. All right, I'm going to check the I/O one more time here. I don't know why that's not coming up. It's always Studio Gremlin. Sometimes things just start doing funny stuff. All right, one more time here. If it's still not working. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. I usually have this set up because on my monitor rig here, I can just A/B between two. Oh, I'm a dummy. This is why it's probably not seeing anything. So I probably need to unmute that. I muted that for safety, but it was too safe. It's supposed to be 9 and 10. Oh man, there we go. See, sometimes, and again, everyone at home, interactive, where you can just yell, be like, it's muted. That's why you can't hear anything. I always tell people mute stuff so it's safe. So, give me a second here. I'm just gonna take the headphones off. So I want to listen on my speakers. This is a moment of truth where, again, if the client's like, oh, here's our mix reference, and then they give it to you and see if it makes it sound better. So we'll see if this does sound better. If it doesn't, I'll tell you the secret. Be right back. So I'm just going to cycle back and forth between the reference and where we're at right now. So we're going to start with their reference.
Baby, even from a mirror, but that her dukes are not the daisies and her shape and size. Don't need advice, no. She paints up that face to make sure those blemishes hide. Coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't let up disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the wasting hips. The body right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. From flower to flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. And you're just the way that you should be. Yet you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally, yeah. Oh, beautiful maiden, glory patron, wasting all the money on that body that she keeps hating, and her ass and thighs, no, they don't need advice. But the magazine rack keeps saying that her rack's the wrong size, yeah. Coffee and cigarettes, calorie news around the neck. Don't it look for disrespect, disrespect, disrespect. Popping pills and posting pics, stressing on the wasting hips. Your body's right, the world is sick, world is sick, world is sick. Well, flower, flower, growing free. Oh, your petals, they look good to me. You're just the way that you should be. Yeah, you're beautiful naturally, beautiful naturally. Beautiful naturally, girl, you're beautiful naturally.
Okay, always a moment of truth when you're listening to the reference that you had and where you're at. I usually will do that around halfway, 3/4 of the way through where I think it sounded good, just in case there's anything that I'm missing. anything that I'm missing or anything that's jumping out. Also, make sure you're doing your best to kind of volume match them a little bit. I missed that at the top, but again, you figured it out eventually. So overall, there's some EQ stuff that jumped out when I was A-Bing back and forth. But the things that I would take from the reference mix, I think where I'm at, it's got a little bit more going on in the mid, so I can probably carve a little bit out and find some balance there. I like elements of the vocal, but there's also some frequencies that are kind of screaming and jumping out at me there. Again, personal preference, we all hear differently. We all have a different idea of what we think is good, but I still think the reference sounds good. I can hear the band. And there's the way that the way some of the effects are on the vocals and the guitar and stuff, like if there's a bit more leeway, maybe we add that. If not, we can always pull that stuff down. But overall, I'm happy with what's going on. If I was to come in the next day, the next morning, I would probably... If I was coming next morning, I'd probably just address the EQ I have on my main bus again. Also, there's a couple tools that we can use, like Gullfoss or Gullfoss EQ, that can work wonders on a mix. I'm just gonna give me 1 second. I'm just curious to hear what it does. It just like it, yeah, it's crazy what it does sometimes. 1 second. Gullfoss, if I'm saying that correctly, not sure, but it just kind of can take a blanket off stuff sometimes, so I find that it's helpful. I didn't mind it before either, though. That's part of it. I thought it sounded good. But with Gullfoss, sometimes it can just do a little bit of magic. I find on the top end, your higher frequencies, it can clean them up a little bit. So I like what it was doing there. It's like, I don't want to say it's dark art stuff, but it's definitely in one of the books that we've probably found, The House of Slytherin. So I think that sounded pretty good. I'd probably leave it at that. This is when I would... also, I have, for anyone that's wondering, I have a hotkey. You can just make your own hotkey for any of these that don't have hotkeys. So I have a hotkey for save as, so I can just hit Shift Command S. So this is where I would probably save a copy of this, like actually bounce this out. So I just go back to save as, I copy that. The way that I work, I usually just have this blank one here. That's the beginning of my export, and that's the end of my export. Or you can just make an actual segment. What's it called? Like an actual selection in your memory location. So export full is the same thing. You can see at the top here. It's going to grab the whole thing there, but I usually just do that. Sometimes I mess it up, and then client gets, 7-minute session with some, 7-minute session or export with a bunch of stuff. Diesel says, sounds a lot more live with that plugin. Yeah, Gullfoss, excuse me, I need a Gullfoss for my voice. Yeah, it can just like clean things up. It's one of those one of those plugins and tools where I don't think you should go to it too quickly, because if you go to it too quickly, you're going to start mixing into it, and I don't think that's going to help you in the long run. I think you should try to make it sound good, and then make the cake good, and then make the icing enhance the cake instead of just putting more icing on it and trying to pass that off. But it is amazing. Gullfoss is amazing. Soothe is amazing as well. But overall, listening between the two mixes, there's just some EQ stuff that's jumping out at me on the reference, which to me kind of makes it so you can't turn it up as loud because it starts to be a little bit harsh, but that's just me. Again, we all have different ears. I'm not telling you what you should do, I'm just telling you what you could do. So as far as exporting it, have all that. The old-fashioned way. Go over to bounce mix. Should be output 1 and 2. That's what we need on this one. Add the MP3 for the client. 16-bit 44.1. Going to go here. Choose the directory. What I normally do, we'll just make a master one here. Actually, let's stay in our folder, our client folder here. Here's what I have is new folder. I call it mix downs. And then sometimes I'll make the actual day, especially if I'm exporting a whole bunch that day. So I'd say new folder. Reference today is the 10th of February 2022. So we keep all our files together where it should be. So now this is heading into that file directory. Again, interleaved 16-bit 441. Because this gives us the WAV file as well as the MP3. We can bounce the disk offline. It's nice people at Avid gave us the ability to bounce offline for all these years. So this is what I would do. I would export this, and then tomorrow, if I was to get back to it, I think I might be done with this one though. I think it's sounding pretty good. Tomorrow, what I would do is I would import this mix into my session, and then I would put that where the reference was. So I can A/B between the two, and if I make some moves, I can A/B between the two, and hopefully it sounds better. And if it sounds worse, then I can just go back to a previous version and go from there. Also, if the client has any things that they want addressed, like they want the guitar solo up or something, I can bring in a previous mix, and then I can A/B between the two to make sure that the guitar is louder or the snare drum's down or the vocals up or whatever we need to do. It just makes it easy that way to be able to hear between the two. So that's pretty much where we're at. And then the last thing that I would do, so we did a lot of work today. Shift Command U, Shift Command B. So if there's anything in the session we don't need, we can remove it. So I'll go ahead and do that. Don't say move to trash and don't say delete. Always just remove it. We're not trying to get rid of the friends. We're just unfollowing them for a second. So we can remove those. And then how to back this up properly because it's quick now. Save copy in all files. If we don't do that, it's just going to give us the .ptx file, which is like the blueprint to a house with no building materials. Go OK. And go over to here. Actually, we have that made there for this song here. And then I just say capital BU and then that. And this saves our full backup. Again, just have your backups on separate drives and back stuff up to the cloud if you can. So it's 2 full backups there that we have. So we're good. There's a couple of different ways to do backups with drive space and CPU, computer processing power these days. I say just make a full backup. It doesn't take that long. Instead of dragging over the new session file update and then making sure there's any audio files you need to copy over, just do a full backup. It's fine. I think that might be it for today. I was thinking I'd be 2 hours. Of course, it's 2.5 hours. I tried to keep some of my ranting and talking down to a minimum today. Overall, happy with how this is sounding. Again, you build the wings on the way down most of the time. That's just kind of how I roll with some of these things. So I'm happy this is coming along, and I want to thank everyone, all the subscribers. I blasted this out on Monday or Tuesday afternoon, I think it was. Because I was, to be honest, I was nervous about it. This is like, if this is going to work, am I going to do an okay job? Is it going to sound good? Because if it sounds like trash, then it's like saying like, oh, I'll teach you how to play basketball, and then it's like you miss every shot, and it's just like, well, these aren't really regulation nets, and like they're legit regulation nets. So feel pretty good about this. So as far as a first track to work on, again, this is a fan favorite in last semester with the students. So I'm glad I could take a swing at this. It was fun. Again, the vocal is great. I think the vocal is fantastic on this. So even though we dusted it over with Melodyne today, Alan Stone, if you're watching this, again, amazing job on that vocal, amazing job with the whole band on what was going on there. Just using it for demonstration purposes. Again, files are there. I do believe it's Cambridge Music Institute that has all these things. Link is down below on YouTube if you're looking for stuff. Again, if you're looking for stuff to mix on, get some experience. Also, if you're an engineer, if you're looking at tracking, things that, what it actually sounds like. Because you'd be surprised sometimes. We don't have access to all these things. So it's a fantastic resource. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that after a couple sessions. I would love it if we could get through a song every 2 or 3 sessions as well. It always depends how much prep we need to do, but this was in fantastic shape to begin with. Again, thanks to everyone for checking this out. Hopefully you found it educational and entertaining, whatever order works for you. If you have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments below on YouTube. I'll get back to anything that I do see there. And thanks everyone for following, and hopefully we can grow this into something where we can have some fun and learn something along the way. Once again, my name is Mike Langford, and I'm producer, engineer, mixer, based out of Toronto, Canada, for those who aren't sure where that is. This has been Let's Mix Live. Again, the artist we're working with today, Alan Stone. Song's called Naturally. Fantastic. Mike Diesel says, great session, Mike. Super insightful. Appreciate it. And Gemma says, have a nice day, guys. Have a nice day, Gemma. Katie says, enjoy the stream. Have a great rest of your day, Mike. Have a great rest of your day, Katie, as well. All right, I got to get going on lunch because I smell something cooking upstairs. So I think that's my cue. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Talk to you later.